Oskaloosa and Pella continue to explore a regional airport project. The Oskaloosa and Pella City Councils will make the final decision. They have to agree on a contract, and that hasn't happened yet. But Oskaloosa president and former City Council member Jimmy Carter says the people will ultimately decide. Carter said this at Monday night's City Council meeting.
This issue will be brought up again to vote on. I assure you of that. This coming November, it'll be on the ballot again, and hopefully the people will be as vocal as it was the last time and tell you, our elected representatives, we want to keep our airport where it's at.
CRI wanted to know if a public vote on the future of a regional airport is guaranteed. City Attorney Dave Dixon says it might not be.
Besides general elections, Oskaloosa residents can affect change in two key ways: through an initiative or a referendum vote. Initiatives allow residents to vote on something the council has not passed. Referendums give residents a chance at repealing things the city council has already approved of. But
there's a specific listing of things set forth in the code, though, that referendum and initiative do not apply to.
There are restrictions listed in the city's charter. People can view this online. Dixon directed us to Article 6.1, a list of scenarios when special elections are not allowed. Item F reads, "The right of an initiative and referendum shall not extend to any measure which will interfere in any way with any contractual relations of the city, past, present, or future." A contract between Pella and Oskaloosa has been in the works for months. City Manager Michael Schrock is writing it and says Oskaloosa's council will probably vote on it sooner than later.
The 2080 agreement would be the more symbolic action that would say, yes, these parties are moving forward, and that's really the next big step. And so the intent is to have that adopted rather quickly.
And according to the city's charter, a petition by residents alone may not change Oskaloosa's plans. Though Carter points out that a special vote on the same topic happened several years ago. That's true. In 2005, a special ballot question stopped Oskaloosa's pursuit of a regional airport. But to Dixon's memory, who was mayor at the time, the city council had the power to block the vote, but allowed it.
As I recall, ultimately, the council did determine, okay, let's go ahead and get this submitted to a public vote to see how the electorate does in fact feel on the issue.
The ballot measure passed, but was limited to 2 years. The city is free to explore a regional airport project.
Oskaloosa plans to spend more than $20 million between July 2012 and June 30th of next year. A good chunk of that money comes from the taxes residents pay. City Manager Michael Schrock and the City Council are fine-tuning the 2012-2013 budget. So let's take a look at what the city plans to spend your money on. This pie chart shows the city is spending the most on what's called general fund purchases, more than 1/3 of the entire budget. Let's focus on the general fund because this is where the bulk of our residents' tax dollars goes. The rest of the budget is paid with money from state taxes, sales tax money, taxes on businesses, and service fees. And as we see, the most costly services are the police department, the fire department, and the library. The police department alone will cost the city $1.7 million to operate next fiscal year. Other services you're paying for include, but not limited to, the 911 call center, the parks department, as well as salaries of the city clerk, city manager, and the city council. Turning on to road work, we mentioned last week the city will spend more than $2 million on projects this summer. That equals about 10% of the city's budget. An equal amount of local and state tax revenue will pay for the work. The public hearing for the budget is March 5th at 6:30 p.m. in the City Council chambers at City Hall. The state determines how much school budgets can grow or increase each year. It's called allowable growth. And this year, school budgets stayed flat. No new money, also called 0% allowable growth. Next year, school budgets can grow by 2%, but there's a catch, according to Oskaloosa School Superintendent Russ Ryder, who sits on the CRI Executive Board.
What's important for the public to understand is just because they're going to give us 2%, 4%, 6% does not automatically mean that we're going to get 4% or 6% new money. Okay? It just allows your budget to grow that large if you have the same number of kids or more. If you have fewer kids, because it's based on enrollment, you're not going to be able to grow your budget that large.
Oskaloosa's enrollment is down 8 students from last year, so next year its budget will shrink. On top of that, Ryder says rising healthcare costs and retirement costs for employees outpace money the school can bring in. This leads to layoffs, a couple positions a year for the last 4 to 5 years. Governor Terry Branstad addressed the legislature on Tuesday. His 30-minute speech focused on 2 items: creating jobs and education reform. Branstad listed 10 education goals he wants in legislation this year. CRI sat down with Oskaloosa School Superintendent Russ Ryder and Curriculum Director Mary Cooksley for their reaction on 2 goals in the governor's plan. So the first item is prospective Iowa teachers need a minimum B college GPA to get into a teaching program in Iowa. Branstad says we need a great teacher in every classroom and a great principal in every building. He added regarding the proposed standard, it's not asking too much, and I'll start with Mary Cooksley. Is it asking too much? We've talked about this before, this GPA requirement. Is it asking too much, or is it the wrong question we should be asking our prospective teachers?
Well, when we've talked about this before, I'm not really sure yet, and I was talking with Russ this morning, and I waver on this a little bit because of the art and science of teaching.
Goal number 3, Branstad wants principals to have more time to observe and coach teachers in the classroom. He says other staff can take some of the management tasks off the hands of principals. And I'll start with you, Mr. Ryder, do principals need more time to observe their teachers in the classroom and maybe help them along?
Yes, and I think the devil's in the details with that particular comment.
And when disasters hit, many communities rely on trained volunteers for help, people who can assess damage, organize search and rescue, ultimately save lives.
But it takes training in the classroom and in simulations like the one in Oskaloosa this week.
A tornado hits the center of town.
Help us out.
Dozens are wounded.
I think my hip is out.
And it's up to these men and women to act fast.
What they're going to be doing is they've got team members that are broke up. They're going to go through and they'll find victims. And what they'll do is they'll assess them for their injuries.
They're members of Mahaska County's Community Emergency Response Team called CERT.
So we have to get them out of here.
And tonight they're doing triage.
Triage is where we have mass casualty incident, lots of victims, and we need to decide priority patients versus who are walking wounded.
The situation is tense. With so many injured, responders don't have much time, just 30 seconds or less with each victim before moving on.
3 left.
If you can walk, you're in pretty good shape. CERT members are learning how to identify priority patients.
Right here, ready? Lower.
If you're marked red, you're moved and treated first.
Red are the ones that need the immediate care. They're the most seriously injured.
Tonight, some of the injured are treatable.
She's okay. She's hurt her hip. She can't walk.
Others, unfortunately, like in real-life disasters, won't make it. For many tonight, they've never done this before.
This is our first training station, but that's what it's about. We learn, we train, we go back, we assess what we've done.
It's effective training with authentic situations.
Got another red.
And everyone has a job to do, even the guy who escorted the reporter out of the area.
We need you to go to Incident Command right now.
Can you tell me what happened?
I can't. We got information at Incident Command for you. They'll explain everything what you need to know.